whether he's making them laugh.
So he's traveling around the world, and he bumps into Mother Teresa. And if you can imagine, he starts whining to Mother Teresa.
Or he's getting them to think.
In the 20 years that I've worked again with companies like yours, I am amazed how many of you do not actually have a strategy.
The Growth Guru, columnist for Fortune.com, will both entertain and educate your executive audience. A frequent writer for Fortune Small Business Magazine, Verne Harnish is the recognized authority on growing and managing a business.
Less people, pay them more, but your total wage cost will be less. And then train them a bunch, 25 times. And by the way, when you train people, they will actually be more loyal than less.
Named one of the top 10 minds in small business by Fortune Small Business Magazine, he appeared on the cover of the December-January 2002 issue. Given his expertise in the field of entrepreneurship, he has appeared on many local and national television and radio programs, including Smart Money, CBS News, and Nation's Business Today, and appeared in stories in over 100 magazines and newspapers, including Forbes, Inc., and the Wall Street Journal. Author of Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, What You Must Do to Increase the Value of Your Fast Growth Firm, which was released in April 2002. Verne's book is endorsed by over 100 CEOs and has been translated into several languages, including Chinese, Japanese, and Korean.
I think running a great company is the same as I hope being a great parent. And I open up my book with a story with the CFO, Tom Meredith of Dell, where he and I got talking about this. I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, a handful of rules, some that you hope never change. You put those in the first column of the planning pyramid, and some you hope change every 90 days.
The founder of two world-renowned entrepreneurship organizations, the Young Entrepreneurs Organization and the Association of Collegiate Entrepreneurs, ACE. Verne is presently founder and CEO of Gazelles Incorporated and has worked closely with some of the world's top entrepreneurs for over 2 decades.
Fred DeLuca. Does anyone know the company Fred founded? Faculty member of ours. Subway. And what did Subway just achieve? They are now bigger than McDonald's in the United States in number of units. Just achieved it about 4 months ago. Unbelievable.
An experienced speaker, Verne traveled the world for Career Track, delivering over 1,000 public and private seminars. He was the co-creator and presenter of Career Track's top-selling Implementing Total Quality Management program, and was a certified presenter for Tom Peters' In Search of Excellence and developer presenter for his Liberation Management programs.
Well, Bob, I actually do appreciate that intro. Somebody just the other day literally said I was one of the top 10 small minds in business, and I didn't really appreciate that. Does anybody recognize either one of those two people? Now, hopefully at least a young lady on the left, right? Mother Teresa. Anyone know the guy on the right? Anyone know the guy on the right? Who? No, not David Frost. It does look like David Frost. Who else? No, not Perot, not Trump. A lot of people guess Trump. It happens to be the guy who created the herbal tea industry. Anybody know who that is? What's the company? Yeah, Mo Siegel. You got it. Celestial Seasonings. Mo Siegel. I actually spent 7 years in Boulder. I was born and raised in Colorado. I really want to open up with this story. And it's one that I just did in the September issue of Fortune Small Business Magazine. Let me tell you Mo's story. He was 19. He was up in the mountains. He was picking some herbs. We think maybe he was smoking a few along the way. Anyway, Mo had hit his second 7-year itch. And at 14 years, Kraft came along, made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and sold it for $65 million at the age of 33. So he had a pretty good day. And he decides he's going to retire. And so Mo says, I'm going to go change the world this time. And so he launches all these not-for-profits, and he gets this thing called the Red Zinger Bicycle event going on, and he's failing miserably. So he's traveling around the world, and he bumps into Mother Teresa. And if you can imagine, he starts whining to Mother Teresa. She's got her finger pointed into him, and somebody suggested that the caption ought to be, "Pull my finger." I just want to put that up there sometime, you know. Yeah, if I was better with PowerPoint, yeah, I just see it. But she said something very powerful to Mo. Goes, Mo, grow where you're planted. Let me now switch gears. And here's really the fundamental message, and that's going to pick up some of the slides that you've got there in your workbook. Here's the message this morning. In the 20 years that I've worked again with companies like yours, I am amazed how many of you do not actually have a strategy. And for you to have a strategy, it actually has to pass 3 tests. One, it has to have kind of 2 criteria. What you do, does it really matter to the customer? And number 2, make you different. So that's that first part. So it's got to pass those couple of questions. And a lot of you have one or the other. Yes, what we do matters to the customer, but does it really make us different? I'll come back to this. The second part of that answer is, if you can't describe your strategy in what we call with 3 strategic anchors, and the one that you lead with we call your brand promise, then you really don't understand your strategy and you can't articulate it. Your people, your customers, your vendors, your world, your industry is not going to be able to understand it. And number 3, underlying that strategy had better be a 10 to 30 times advantage. And in the process, one of the things that we passed out we're fairly well known for is this one-page strategic plan. If you read in Larry's book, he said, look, if you can't say it in a page or 2, then you probably don't understand it, whether you're a billion-dollar company or you're a million-dollar company. And so we've got this one page that I'm going to kind of walk you through. And in this process, I'm going to share with you what I think are the only 4 decisions you have to make. If you can make these 4 decisions well, everything else goes much easier for you. Let me go to one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Wayne Huizenga. I've loved him as a faculty member in our particular program. What is Wayne known for, besides Blockbuster? What's the first company he founded? Garbage. Yeah, garbage. He takes $500 in a trash truck in Fort Lauderdale, and he creates a company called Waste Management, which he sells for $8.5 billion. He had a pretty good day, so to speak. Then he decides he's going to go over and do video rentals. Now, let's look at that industry. Could you imagine building a business on this premise? That we're going to charge our customers up front just to have the privilege to do business with us in an unknown business. They'd like to keep it longer, but we're only going to let them keep it for one night. And we're not going to have what they want anyway. This is what we describe as a stupid business. And I hate to say it, but there are some of you sitting out there right now that actually have a stupid business. Because what you have to make the customer do to fit the economics of your situation is not what they want to do. So a starting point is, and this is what Wayne does, is he sits down and he says, okay, what are the stupid things in the industry? What are the things that the customer can't stand? And let's drive around that, and then let's fix the economics. So he said, hey, here's what we're going to do. Number 1, we're not going to charge a fee. What did we say was the definition of a strategy? It matters to a customer and makes you what? Different. Makes you different. So let's not charge a fee. Number 2, let's actually let them keep it for 3 nights, $3. Now let's look at the economics. Wayne and his company are getting 50% more per purchase, $3 instead of $2. But we're going to let you keep it for 3 nights. So the customer says, what's the average cost? $1 a night, which is half price. I love that kind of psychology. And number 3, let's actually have what they want. And what actually became their brand promise, which is still their brand promise today. What is Blockbuster's brand promise? Always the hits, always the hits. We always have the hits. And if not, they what? Give you a free rental. So they had their, and I just gave you a hint, they had their 3 strategic anchors, and the one they lead with. Those of you that want to open up the planning pyramid, I'm dealing in the 3rd column. It's 3 to 5 years. It's called brand promise there at the very bottom. And there's 3 lines. And you would want to put in what are the 3 ways that you are different and matter to your customer, and circle the one that is what it's going to be the promise of your brand into the marketplace. Now, This is great that Wayne figured this out, but how was he going to afford it? Where was the 7,000-pound engine? Where was the rock around the industry's neck that was keeping it from being able to make any money? Anybody know? Anybody know? What? Late fees, that was actually what they wanted. That's how a lot of the economics worked, was to encourage late fees. That's why they only wanted you to keep it one night. It was the cost of the video. Whether you're a mom and pop or Blockbuster, a video cost $65. That was the fundamental problem in the industry. As a result, the mom and pops could only afford about 1,000 copies, and they had to get fees up front in order to fund the inventory. And that then created, because they didn't have enough inventory, it created the one night, all the problems. So Blockbuster comes along, and they go to the movie studios and said, let's cut a deal. Let's get the video for $6. We're talking about less than a tenth. See, you got to learn to dream outside the box. A lot of us would have been happy to go there and cut a deal for $59.67 and thought we had a good day. $6 and then a back-end 40% revenue share. As a result, by doing that deal, from 1997 to 1998, Blockbuster's market share jumped in 12 months from 24% to 40% of the market. And in that same 12 months, 2,500 video rental stores went out of business overnight. They found the underlying advantage. Where's the 7,000-pound engine in your industry and the 10 to 30 times advantage? Let me give you another example. Starbucks. Since you've mentioned Starbucks, it's sitting out there all over the place. What allowed Starbucks to happen? Anybody know where the 7,000-pound engine was that they fixed? What allowed them to now challenge Coke as one of the largest brands on the planet? And that's where they're going in terms of their big, hairy, audacious goal. Where was it? Anyone? What's that? Yeah, it wasn't cost of coffee, because there wasn't really any way they could get coffee for a tenth. I'm looking for a 10 times advantage here, what I call the X factor. It wasn't cost of coffee. Taste. Now, guess what? Taste or variety of mix, you're starting to describe the 3 strategic anchors, the 3 ways they're different and matter to the customer, but it's not the underlying advantage. Are they 10 to 30 times better tasting? Where was it? Where was it? What? Availability. It's interesting. You want to figure out your first advantage to get you your second. What's interesting with Blockbuster, now that DVDs have come out, anyone can get them for $10 to $15. And so Blockbuster's underlying advantage is gone, but now what advantage do they have? They are 10 times larger than their nearest competitor. So they used one to get the other. That's why it's in the 3 to 5 year column on my planning pyramid. And that's, by the way, chapter 3 in the book. You can go in there and see all the specifics around that. We'll walk through it. Lease deal? No. Yes. Experience is what I would put on this as a strategic anchor, but not the thing that allows, not the engine that allows them to deliver that. Here it is. Who would have thought that the masses would pay $3 for a cup of coffee? They don't, in fact, somebody just told me the other day, I was doing this program Wednesday night in New York City for Fortune magazine. Somebody said it's not called Starbucks, it's called $4. That's what they should have called it. And when they launched, Nordstrom at the time was selling their high-end gourmet coffee for 25 cents. They dared to think that you could charge 10 times what people perceive coffee should cost. And as you know the phrase, sell to the masses, eat with the classes. You sell to the classes, you eat with the masses. They figured out how to bring a luxury good to the masses. And therefore, they had the money to develop the experience, to have the varieties and taste, to have some of the best trained people on the planet, to have the locations, all the things that you just described. There's littered all over the floor in Seattle area, business plans of folks who wanted to replicate this, but they couldn't get beyond the 4-minute mile. They couldn't get beyond, I could only charge $1 or $1.50 for a cup of coffee. That was their advantage. The reason I love it, it's not about cost. They're actually charging a lot more. And that is, and you know what? I really don't care if you make any other decision today but this one. given all the other stuff I've asked you to kind of do to think about your business. If you can at least make this decision, guess the president. We're going to put a man on the moon this decade. Kennedy said it in 1960, when did it get done? 69. We will defeat the evil empire. Reagan, 1980, when did it get done? The wall came down in 89, actually, the year after he was out. We must defeat terrorism. President Bush, right? And he said, how long is that likely going to take? He prepared us to what? It could take us 10, 15 years. Now, I've not yet figured out Clinton's. I think it's something like number of interns bedded or something like that. And I think he did achieve it. But where do you start? Where do you start? Do you know that the president, as of all presidents, has a daily meeting from 9 to 9:15? Reason I walked out last night is at 5:05 every day, like clockwork, I have a conference call with my team for 15 minutes. And I'm all over the planet. But I don't miss that for anything. So I can stay connected. Goldman Sachs has 2 a day. Microsoft. You could read, I've got a whole chapter on that in the book, about the need for you having a daily 15-minute with your executive team. Virtually every day, Bush receives an update in a manila folder labeled Top Secret in bold red letters. Inside's a guide with the names and status of the top 27 al-Qaeda leaders on the Pentagon's watch list. 8 are believed to have been killed, 4 are in the U.S. detention, and the remaining 15 are at large. Different colors are used to distinguish those killed from those captured and those whose whereabouts remain unknown. Now, look. Why does he need to look at it every day? A lot of you who have long sales cycles say, I don't have anything changing on a daily basis. Yeah, you're asking me to change it daily. What do you think's the status change of most of those 27 every day? No change. Well, hopefully at least against the ones that are dead. So why does he ask every day in a stand-up? What? Keep focused. See, if you only ask your organization once a month, how are we doing? I call it the cringe factor. They only have to cringe once a month. If you ask every week, they only have to cringe once a week. But you ask every single day, and guess what? In reverse, you ask every day, you will move things in weeks. You ask every week, you will move things in months. If you wait every month, it may take you years. Sam Palmisano, who is he? Students of business. New CEO of IBM, excellent. How did Sam get there? He was given, like you do at Allied Signal and every other place, a very tough job to turn around global services. Where do you start? And that's what you have to do as a leader. If you do not tell your people where to start on Monday, you are failing as a leader. Where do you start? Sam Palmisano said here, EMC, the big storage company, go find me the 100 customers, top customers of EMC. Now, they've got a big fancy flash report system like we've got, but I don't care if you got the technology. Sam, like I suggest you all do, is take down the cheesy velvet Elvis across from your desk and put up a whiteboard. And he listed the 100 customers of EMC. And then every day, Sam Palmisano was on his global sales call, and what question did he ask his organization? You got it. And what did he ask the next day? And what did he ask the next day? And what you only know you've repeated yourself enough when your people are mocking you. Okay? So, the 4th decision you've got to make. The first decision is, do I have great people? The second decision is, do I know where we're going to be in the next 10 to 30 years? That's in that second column. My third decision is, do I have a strategy that has 3 strategic anchors, a brand promise, and an underlying 10 to 30 times advantage? And number 4, I know the number 1 thing we've got to focus on. Not the 3, not the 7, not the 12. The number 1 that we have to focus on in the next 90 days. If you pick it right, everything else finishes up. Let me wrap up now. 2 last hints. No one has ever achieved peak performance without a coach. You'll do fine. But no one's ever achieved peak performance without a coach. Get one if you don't have one. By the way, Pete Sampras, who just won the U.S. Open, has 3 coaches. The best have 1. The greatest have 3. And last, you can't wait. When people ask me over my 20 years, can you pick the winners and the losers when you meet the executives? I think I can. I look for two things the second day of that MIT class I teach. One, who has been the most thirsty to learn? The greats I've ever met. Bill Gates takes a week every year and just goes away and reads the entire week. All kinds of resources. I got a buddy, Bert Quigg, who decided to take 21 days on his sabbatical and read 21 books from 21 different countries. And he's one of the great construction entrepreneurs in Vancouver, Canada. Bill Marriott, who was our first speaker at YEO, is famous in his organization for taking notes with both hands. Right hand, what he learned, left hand, what he's going to do about it on Monday. So, huge thirst for knowledge. And then number two, they do something about it.